Life is precious, and we all have the opportunity of living it to the fullest. Unfortunately, so few of us know how to manage it all. How do we account for our opportunities? How do we account for our time? How do we account for our relationships, health, spirituality, homes, finances, influence, and careers? How do we account for the one life we have to live? I am so glad you asked. In this program, you will find answers to all of these questions and more. Welcome to the Account for Your Life podcast with your host, the healthy accountant himself, Jay Moore.
Welcome back to another episode of the Account for Life podcast. Today on the podcast, we're going to look at the single most important key if you want riches and wealth. Yep, one key. I think I found it. You've probably heard of it. You definitely know about it. A lot of times we have a hard time implementing this one key. This is a principle of all principles when it comes to getting anything that you desire. And so today I want to jump into that key. Now, before I share with you and tell you exactly what the key is, I want to give you some context of where I found the key. Right? Because here's the thing, I had to find the key in order to share the key. And it all started with a question that somebody asked me. Somebody asked me a question on just a few days ago. I just pulled in from coming back from the gym. And I got, and some people was walking up, and it looked like they may have been Jehovah's Witnesses, but I don't think they were Jehovah's Witnesses. I think they were from a Christian church in the area. And they would just come to say hello. They're knocking on door and be outside. And so they came up to me and they was asking me, talking to me about stuff. And I'm telling them about the keys. I'm telling them that I've been studying the key and this, that, and the third. And they was like, yeah, that's cool. And they asked me, what are the keys? It's a lot of keys. There's tons of keys. And I didn't really want to get into all the keys because we were, of the same, thought. And, I know that they're out there looking for unbelievers. So we talked for a few minutes and then time went on. But it hit me just maybe a year ago when three words came up. I'm almost to the key, guys. And then we're going to break it down. Three words came up. And here's the three words. And these aren't the keys. Reason, purpose, and why. We'll get to those in a second. But these three words was just circling around. And I'm just like, these are all like the same words. And we're going to talk to you about these words because these are important. If you want wealth and riches, these words are important. Reason, purpose, and why are super important. I'm going to share with you how. But then I went to the Bible because I was trying to figure out where can I find the key at the very beginning of the Bible. I wanted to name this podcast today, why you don't need the Bible. Why you don't need the Bible. We need it. We need it. But then the gentleman that I'm going to introduce you to, which you've heard of, didn't need it. He never heard a sermon. He never read a Bible scripture, but yet he's one of the greatest people who's ever lived in everything that you probably believe today from this one guy. And we're going to go to Genesis. Genesis chapter 12. The story is epic. Chapter 12. It starts off. The Lord said to Abram, go from your country, your people, and your father's household to the land I will show you. I will make you a great nation. I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you, I will curse, and all peoples all peoples on the earth will be blessed through you. This is God talking to Abram. So Abram went as the Lord ordered him, and Lot went with him. Abram was 75 years old when he set out from Haran. I'm going to stop right here because this is where I found the principle. Here's the principle. Faith. Abram had faith before faith was faith. Abram had faith before faith was faith. Abram had faith before religion. Abram had faith before there was a Bible. Abram had faith before we knew anything about all the stuff we needed to know. Abram had it. How in the world could a person who didn't go to church, didn't read the Bible, how in the world could this person just count what he heard? Because guys, he saw this in a vision. He felt that he had something come over him. It's saying that God came to him. But here's the thing. The Lord comes to all of us. He comes to all of us in a way so that we can make a move. He comes to all of us in our dreams. He comes to all of us whenever we need to do something. And here's the thing. That's what happened to Abram. The Lord came to him in a vision. The Lord came to him when he was just thinking. He's thinking about something and he heard something say, man, you better get up out of here. Because if you do, I'm gonna bless you. And many of us have gotten the same call. I know I have. I've gotten a similar call. Leave your company. Stop doing what you're doing. Start doing something different and I will bless you. You've heard that before. But a lot of times we don't act because we don't have the faith. Now let's get to the riches. Because Abram did exactly what he believed, what he didn't actually believe. He knew God called him, and so he went. He left. And as soon as he left, I don't know how fast it was, but if we go to Genesis chapter 13, it says, so Abram went up from Egypt to Negev with his wife and everything he had, and Lot with him. Abram had become very wealthy in livestock and in silver and gold. Abram became rich and wealthy because he moved, because he had faith, because he did exactly what God was showing. So the key, right? What the key is? The key is faith. Now, what else do we know about Abram and faith? We're going to head on over to Hebrews. And we're going to go to chapter 11. Go down to verse number 8. It says, by faith, Abraham, whose name was changed from Abram to Abraham, when called to go to a place he received as his inheritance, obeyed and went, even though he did not know where he was going. By faith, he made his home in the promised land like a stranger in a foreign country. He lived in tents as did and were heirs to him of the same promise. But let's look back at that again. By faith, he went, even though he did not know where he was going. See, many of us would do something like, why? We'd ask a question like, why? And so remember I said I wanted to talk about these words, why, reason, why, and purpose. And I went to Mr. Google. I didn't go to ChatGPT today. I just went to Google, but Google has this. So I put in difference between reason, why, and purpose. And it says reason, why, and purpose are related but distinct concepts. Reason is the cause or explanation for an action or event, while purpose is the intention or goal. Why is a question word used to inquire about reasons or purposes? Essentially, reason is about the because, purpose is about the to, and why is a question that seeks explanation. There was something else that I liked about this. It says reason is the logical basis or justification for something happening. It can be a cause, an explanation, or a motive. So when we think about a reason, this is just kind of like it just kind of happened. Wherein purpose is we decided an outcome. Like Abraham's purpose was to be the father of many nations. God decided the outcome. Many are the plans in the man's heart, but it's the Lord's purpose that will prevail. That's in Proverbs. So God's purpose for Abram's life was already set. And when he heard of the purpose, what did he do? He moved. He says, "What are you telling me that I'm all that in a bag of chips?" He says, "Yes, you're all that in a bag of chips." Have you ever had a vision and then you went and shared it with somebody else that didn't see the same thing? Then they're looking at you like, you said you're going to be rich. You said you're wealthy. You said you're going to, you said you're going to be running all these businesses. You said you're going to be traveling all over the country. You're going to be doing all this stuff that I do that stuff. I don't even know you have these skills. It's kind of like last night they had the NBA draft, and people's their dreams are becoming true because at some point in their life they decided, my purpose is I'm going to be an NBA player, and because I know I'm an NBA player, I'm going to start working towards being an NBA player. And all of a sudden, time went on, and I can't remember the guy's name, but a lot of them was overcome with emotions because they're like, "Yo, this happened. I know it, and I had to work for it." The purpose. Now, here's the thing: when they were little kids, and they said, "I'm gonna be an NBA player," no one could see that. You are? Well, all right, little Timmy. We hope you get. But we don't know that you're actually going to do that. See, purpose is what you decide. You decide something. You make a decision about something. You say, my objective. This is my goal. This is where I'm going. See, becoming rich and wealthy is so simple, right? Because we have to have purpose. We have to have an understanding of the intention that we plan to have or plan to do or plan to get to. Because when we have that intention and we're intention, you no longer need faith. No, I said it. You don't need faith at that point. It's funny, right? Not funny, but I saw a question on Facebook yesterday. Person posed a question about they have been praying for something they've been praying and praying and praying for something. And they asked, well, when do you stop? Do you ever stop praying? No, I think that was something like that. Do you ever stop praying? And so a good friend of mine responded, and he said exactly what I would have said. So I was like, wow, that's good. And the essence of what he said is that, okay, prayer is cool, right? He says you'll stop praying when you believe. When you believe, it's going to happen. That's exactly how I feel about most of the time. I don't want to keep praying about something. That means I don't believe. I'm not having any faith about my expectation towards what this is. So when we think about prayer, not faith, when we think about faith, coming out of faith is going into knowing. It's things that you know, but you don't need any faith for. There's things that you know right now that you need no faith to accomplish. And you can you can listen. You don't need, like, if you can already faith for that. If you can talk, you don't need faith for that. Like if you need, if you need to get up and get dressed, if you need to eat, if you need to go to work and drive a car, things that you already know, you don't need any faith. You just do them. So what happens is we've been so disconnected through so many different mediums and systems and cultures that we think faith is religious. We think faith is about praying. We think faith is about being going to church and, and doing all those rich things, when faith is none of those, because Abraham, you don't need any of it. You don't need any of it to be who God called you to be. It shows us in Genesis, God called them just like God called you. You've already gotten the call. You know exactly what God's been talking to you about. God's been talking to you about a business. God's been about, just things that you should do, what things that you could do. God's been talking to you about some education, some new education you need to get. God's been talking to you about this gift that you know you have, but you haven't really. God's been talking to you about all this stuff, and yet a lot of times we're just kind of like hanging out. Look, guys, I'm throwing myself under the bus too. I'm with you, because here's the thing: I'm still working on all of this. My faith had waned. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Because my faith had waned. My faith had gotten kind of weak. I've been trying to figure things out lately, just because at the end of the day, you got to ask the question, why? Why? Because why will lead me to the next phase. Because at the end of the day, I don't want to go into reason. I want to go into purpose. Why, or what is the purpose for this podcast? Why am I doing it? Why is it important? Why is it needed? What do people get? Why would they listen? So I'm asking all these questions. Because at one point, my faith, if you caught last week, I think I got pretty emotional. I was ready to quit. I was ready to let, a week before, I was ready to let all of this go, man. Here it is. God called me to a land. He called me to the land of account for life. He says, this is a land that I will show you. I will show you exactly where I'm taking you. And here's the thing, guys, it's a journey. Interesting about Abram's journey. There's no timetable. Well, there is a timetable. We can see that when we go back, there's a timetable. God called him. Abram was almost 100 years old when he finally got the child. Now, they did have a jump off. They did have a jump off where, they got a little antsy and they wasn't living by faith. Well, Abraham let his wife jump in and say, you know what, I don't think God's going to come through. So here, let's go ahead and, knock up, the help. So Abraham was almost 100 when he finally had Isaac. Almost 100. Come on. Are you serious? Almost 25 years. He was 75 when he was called. So here's the thing. The thing about it's like, yeah, I heard a good definition of faith is where I stand on the things that I expect. Now faith is where I stand on the things that I expect, while I prove the things I can't see. That is faith. So we're moving to prove what's invisible to us and to everyone by moving towards in purpose. If God called you, if God called me to be the account for your life person, God called me the accountant person. God called me and says you will live by faith, fitness, and finances. These are your strategic moves. But here's the thing: before you get to the wealth and the riches, you must go through the journey. Faith to knowing, fitness, preparation for what's to come. Wealth is the culmination of all of that coming together. See, guys, riches and wealth is possible to anyone who makes the decision to live with purpose. Come on now. Purpose. It says, let's go back to purpose, what Google says about purpose. Purpose is the intended outcome or goal that someone would like to achieve. It's the reason for doing something, the aim or the objective. So what is the purpose for your life? This is one of these big questions that everyone's asked, at least a lot of believers, at least men and women of faith. What is the purpose for my life? What was the reason? What's the logical reason God placed me here? But what was the original thing that he says, when I send this guy over here, this is what's going to do. But here's the problem, and I'm going to break this problem down, and then we're going to get out of here today. Problem that you're having, and me too. In the spiritual realm is more real than the physical. So there was a time when you were all spirit, no body. And when you were all spirit, you had a conversation about why you were coming here. You had a conversation at what you needed to do on this, in this body, this earth suit that you knew exactly what that is. Now, here's the problem. When we had this conversation and developed the plan, we were also told that you would not remember anything. Wow. Not going to remember. Now, along the way, there will be things where you can have an intuition about it. But it's going to always feel like, man, I should go this way, or I shouldn't go this way. Or, it's going to always feel like you're going to have to act a certain way. You're going to have to live with purpose. You're going to have to live with intention. You're going to have to live by faith, knowing that this is what I'm supposed to do, and this is why I'm here. So it's the remembering that this is why I was sent. This is the purpose. And so, how does one remember? It's not so succinct, but it's all embedded in intuition. And one of the things that I've learned about my intuition, and I have a new saying. It's not new for something that I've said before, but it's a saying that I use now when I'm thinking about how to make a decision. My intuition. And I shared this with my wife, and I was like, look, if I ever say it's the I AFYL, that means we better not do it. We better let it go, and this has been tested already, and it's worked. And so whenever I say that lets me know that I need to go the direction of my intuition. You need to find a way to remember how to think in a certain way that you're able to discern what is in the right path for you. We all got to have our own way of doing that. See, this is the spiritual part. We got to stay in contact and in touch with who we are spiritually so that we can use our intuition. So, and then get back to the original understanding and purpose for why God sent us here. Purpose is the intended outcome or goal you would like to achieve. So if you would like to have wealth and riches, implement this into your life where you have purpose, but you use faith as your principle that helps you know exactly who you are, getting to where you were originally called before you even got here on this planet. So guys, I hope this blesses you. I hope you got value from this program today. My name is Jay Moore, the Healthy Accountant, helping you to account your life. God bless, and I will see you on the next episode. Peace.
This has been the Account for Your Life podcast with your host, the healthy accountant himself, Jay Moore. Until next time, make it a great day.